Hi, and welcome to Sea Days and Sunsets. This is the very first blog post I've ever done on here, but I wanted to share some information that I've been using here to gain free cruises, learn as much as I can about the casino programs, specifically on Royal Caribbean today. Um, my name's James. My wife is Kimberly. We're both extremely avid cruisers, but not all that experienced in the casino program. We began last year learning about it. We reached Prime, which I'll explain here in a minute, in the Royal Caribbean system, but we still have a lot to learn, and we've been trying to maximize our points to earn free cruises. Kimberly and I both have over 100 cruises each on a lot of different programs, a lot of different cruise lines. But lately, we've been focusing on our pinnacle achievement. We're not there yet, but we're closing in on it. We're hoping within the next 2 to 3 years, we'll get to pinnacle on Royal Caribbean. But in the meantime, we're focusing a lot on enjoying it and the casino free offers that are being given. So that's what we're here to talk about today, the July free offers and what Royal puts out and the spreadsheet that I've created for each of the different offerings that they give based on cruise length. So the most important thing today, would love it if you subscribed, but more than anything, let me know if this is something that is useful for you. It's what I use to actually pick my cruises before, my offers before we even go on the cruise. We just got off of the Jewel of the Seas last weekend, and we're going on the Wonder of the Seas here in the very near future. And so I've been using these new spreadsheets to help me figure out what we want to target, what point levels we're going for to do everything. So please comment, please like if this is something that you would like to see more of. Otherwise, I'll keep using it either way. So with no further ado, let's jump into some just level setting on the things we can look at. I'm going to start out with a PowerPoint. Don't worry, we're not staying in PowerPoint for very long for all of you who are in the business world and don't prefer PowerPoint. Neither do I, but I just wanted to get a little bit of information to you. So when we talk about Royal Caribbean's casino points here in their program, everything's going to be based on throughput here. Throughput is the amount you bet, not whether you win or lose. So let's think of it this way. If you made a blackjack bet and you pushed, you would have bet $100 maybe and still had the $100, but your throughput would have been $100. More importantly here, we're going to be talking about slots and video poker. As you can see here, slots, you get 1 point for every $5 throughput. So if you made a $5 bet and then you got a line pay out of that and won $5, you would get 1 point and have the exact same amount of money you started with. I won't keep explaining that. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if it doesn't. But again, slots, it's 1 point for every $5 through. Video poker is 1 point for every $10 through. You might say, why? Why? That doesn't seem fair. Video poker has a much higher return to player than slots. And while they control the algorithm on slots very closely, a lot of people estimate it's about 85 to 86% return to the player. So for every $100 you play, you might expect to see $86 or so come back to you over time. Doesn't mean you won't win and hit a huge jackpot. Doesn't mean you'll get a single line pay and you might lose it all without anything coming back. But over time, that's what's expected. Whereas video poker has a much higher return to player, in some cases as high as maybe 96, 97% for things like jacks or better, and maybe video blackjack that's out there. And then our third one is table games. This one, nobody really seems to be able to nail down exactly how they calculate this. And one of the reasons is the last point I make here, and what causes this to change up is the pit boss. Sometimes it's just a matter of how you're getting rated. But things like blackjack, which have a much lower house edge when played perfectly, might get less points than maybe something like roulette, which a lot of people, I think they say for every 10 spins you get, if you bet the exact same thing for 10 spins in a row, you would get that number of points for your average over those 10 spins. And so that's how those are calculated. What we're going to be talking about today is the Royal Caribbean Casino certificates. And we're going to look at a certificate here in a minute. But for anyone who's not familiar with this, we're going to be talking about the July certificates today and the example offers that you might get depending on the number of points that you earn in the casino. And just a quick breakdown, if you haven't seen this before, here's an example certificate number. The first two numbers, 25, represent the year. That's easy. The second two represent the month, in this case 07 for July. Then we end up with these weird codes. A. The A codes is for cruises that are 5 nights or less. The C codes are for greater than 5 nights, 5 days on a cruise. And then the D is for Europe. I have no idea what Asia or anywhere else is, but the A and the C are in North America. And then the last code here represents the number of points you've earned, but we'll look at the chart of that in a second. But in this example, I used 06, and that means that you've earned at least 800 points and less than 1,200 points. It would be an 07 if you had earned 1,200 points. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, let me know in the comments if it doesn't, and I'll try to explain it a little bit better. But what you're here for today is the spreadsheet that was created. So I'm going to jump over there. And we're going to take a look at the spreadsheet. Let me zoom in on this to make it a lot easier for you to see what's going on. And I've put together this tab here, the sheet called Key. And the really important stuff here is this is what we're going to look at here to begin with, is this is the offer spreadsheet for the A offers. Remember, that's for 5 nights or less. And this is what I just used over the weekend to earn a free cruise. We got 1,200 points. You might have seen that on the background during my introduction and everything. I just thought I'd share that in there. But let's start out with that. I have a link here to the original document. And if you're not familiar with Google Sheets, if you just hover over the hyperlink, maybe click it if you have to, but then we'll click here and it's going to open up this offer sheet. And I'll zoom in a little bit more here for you. And what this shows, this is what we get to. We go to the PDF that was the original sheet. And you can see these points. Remember, we already went through the points. But it starts as low as 400 points is where you can start receiving free casino offers all the way up to 40,000 points. Kimberly and I are nowhere near anything that 1,200 to 2,000 is probably about where our limits are and everything. So these 07s to 05 certificates are going to be, I think that's the most we've ever earned is a 2,000 point. I know a lot of people who watch this are going to be way up here in the 25,000s that are masters in the program and everything like that. But that's not us. Everything we're saying here is all valid for all the levels that are in here. And the spreadsheet that we're going to go through actually takes all of these. So what I have done in the past for figuring out what we want to do is I kind of went through and I said, oh, we'll probably try to target 1,200. And then I would open this link to the 1,200. And then we jump into this Royal Caribbean offer here. And these are all the 2507A07 codes that are here. And then what I would do is I'd go through and we see offer type here for 1 guest, offer type here for 2 guests. And of course, Kimberly and I always want to cruise together, and we don't really want to pay any more for our next cruise that we win. So we don't really prefer these cruise fares for 1 guest. So I would kind of start ignoring them. What I would usually do is search for a cruise fare for 2 guests here since the program changed and they started introducing these. And then we would go through and maybe say, hey, next January, we don't have a whole lot of cruises planned or a cruise at all planned. So let's just keep scrolling and scroll and scroll and scroll all the way into January and say, okay, what can we take? What's out of Florida? Maybe let's start looking through there. No, I don't want to leave from Galveston. You get the idea here. So this is probably what you're already doing if you're looking through these to figure out what you want to take. The one thing that was pointed out in a post on the Facebook group for the casino program for Royal Caribbean at the beginning of this month was that there are some incredible offers right now for 2 guests in as little as 600 points. So for half of this amount, I wouldn't even have looked at that had I not seen the post. But that's going to be what we jump into here and take a look. So I just wanted to give you an idea on what these look like. So if you wanted to look at the 800 points, the 600 points, the 400, you bring them up and you start just kind of filtering through and maybe doing searches and everything like that. But we'll go back to the Google Sheet here. So before we hop over to the good stuff, the data, why you're here, disclaimer is here. Hey, I wrote some code. I'm a former programmer. I am a programmer. That I wrote some code to combine all of these into a spreadsheet, but there may be mistakes in there. Please validate anything that you see. Please don't just copy this and say it's yours. It took some time to put this together. To get started, we're going to jump down here to the very bottom to the offers tab. We'll do that here in a minute. And then I've got a little request, or if you want any help, is if you wouldn't mind liking or subscribing to our brand new channel. I could really use the help. That's the only thing I'm asking for this work that I'm putting in, just as a thank you, nothing else. So here we go. We're going to jump over to, again, you go from this key tab, you click on the very bottom here, and we're going to click offers, and we're going to jump right in. So as you can see, I've shared the Google Sheets here. It's going to be in a read-only view for you right now. So if you were to try to come up here and click the sort or do anything on the header, it's not going to work. So there's 2 great ways for you to start working with this sheet. If you're an Excel person, and honestly, this is where this came from, was Microsoft Excel. I converted it to Google Sheets. But if you want to get it out of here, just click File, Download, and Save to a Microsoft Excel spreadsheet, and do everything that you already know how to do in Microsoft Excel. Not going to teach that today. But if you want to stay on the web interface, simply go to Data and create Filter View. This will create a temporary filter view just for you. You're not changing this for anybody else. That's why it's read-only, so that we're not all affecting each other. So the first thing you might do is, let's go all the way over here to the offer type that I was talking about before. And you see cruise fare for 2, and then there'll be some cruise fare for 1 there. But what I want to do, I'm immediately going to come over here. I'm going to click on the little icon in the right side of that column, and I'm going to remove all the cruise fare for 1 guest and click OK. So now at the very bottom, which you can't see because my head's in the way, is there are now 11,334 rows of 14,344 rows that are now available. So there were only about 3,000 cruise fare for 1 on this offer, on all of the offers here. So if you think about that, that's pretty good. They're giving a lot of cruise fares for 2 out there and everything. But then we've got a lot of these really high ones. If you remember, the 02 offers, the anything above that 07 that I was talking about required more points. The 06 required 1,500, the 05 requires 2,000 points, all those things all the way up to that 40,000 level. Well, that's not what I want to look at. So I'm going to click on this little icon here again in the right, and I'm going to hit clear, and then I'm going to select the 07s, 08s, 09s, and 10s here for what maybe I want to look at for my 3-day weekend cruise that's coming up. Remember, this is the A, so it's less than 5, it's 5 or less nights that are out there. So I'm going to click on that, and that's going to filter these down. Now you can have even more fun with this. Los Angeles, not so much. Remember I said Galveston earlier. I'm even going to do a little bit more. And I'm going to filter, what is it, by values. I'm sorry, by condition, where the text contains. And let's just do Florida. And I'm going to choose OK. And so now, look at what we've done. We are seeing all of the cruises for 2 guests that are in the 07, 08, 09, and 010 that are sailing out of Florida. And maybe I have a specific date range that I want to work with. I could sort this. These are already sorted by earliest all the way to latest. So again, the example I had before, if I knew in January that I wanted to go on a cruise because I didn't have anything planned, that I can just scroll through the list. You can provide other filters there and everything, but let's look at all the Januaries there. So starting January 2nd, I guess right there, all the way down to January 31st. And I can go through and I can say, oh my gosh, look at that. They're actually giving away out of Fort Lauderdale, the Oasis of the Seas cruise. It's in an interior, but I still love that. Or maybe I really wanted that ocean view. I can look for balcony. At these levels, you're not going to find junior suites or grand suites. I'll tell you that right now. But they exist at the higher levels if you want to keep looking. So you can go through and pick these. So that's one way to go at this, and I'll show some other fun ones. But the more importantly is if you would come to the spreadsheet after you've cruised and you know that you've earned, let's just say you only earned the 07 certificate, you can filter just to that also. So you get all of those with it. And then the last one really is, as I was saying, if you were to choose more options, so I'm going to take the 07 off because I said there's a ton of things there, but what's really shocked me for this is that the 08, 09, and 10, how many cruise fares for 2? There are 173 cruise fares for 2 in those categories out of Florida. I'm sorry, so that's just out of Florida. If I take off the Florida filter, there are 267 cruises for the A certificates this month. That's amazing to me as far as what you can get. And remember, what we're talking about is 800, 600, or 400 points just to get a free cruise. 400 points, honestly, we can do in an evening if we focus on it and everything. What I didn't explain very well is we are very low rollers. We try to maximize our points. We try to look for the highest return to player when we do this. There are tons of channels out there showing you how you can do $50 spins and win huge jackpots and everything. We're not going to talk about that. That is not who we are. We love the 75, 88-cent spins on the slot machines. We love the $2 bets on video blackjack or on the video poker machines that simply keep returning our money and keep us in the game for longer for earning points. So if you are looking for how to win on blackjack, maybe how to win on craps, there's a great channel that I follow out there for craps named The Holy Roller. Love him. We've actually met Brian, the guy who runs the channel. We met him. My wife did a slot pull with him and his wife and a huge group of people. And there's roulette out there. There's all kinds of excellent options out there. But for this, I'm not going to spend too much more time on this. Hopefully this makes sense. If you're familiar with spreadsheets, you can work with this. You can do whatever you want. Let me know if it helps you, and I'll keep publishing these. It does take a little bit of time, but I do have the code written. I expect Royal's going to break my code every so often, and I've got to fix it. So make sure I know that it's worth it to you and everything, please. Otherwise, good luck to you in July. I know we're what, a little bit into July, the second week right now, so this is not extremely timely. I was on a cruise last weekend, but I wanted to get this out. I will do this again for August if this is worthwhile to people. So please let me know, and good luck to everyone. And let's just keep comments coming in. Let's chat a little bit. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much. Have a great day.